Door County Fish Boil. I am the boil master here at the old post office. I do every single fish boil here at the restaurant, which comes down to roughly 400 of these every season.
Wow.
And I was also born and raised right here in beautiful Door County. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about our famous fish boils that we do up here, starting with the fish we use. That's what I have right over here. I do take a quick walk around the whole circle to show you what they look like before I put them in the kettle. So if you want a picture of them, just have your phone out and ready, because I gotta kind of keep moving. Everything's done on this little timer here. So fish that we use for our fish boils here in Door County, they're all fresh. They're all locally caught Lake Michigan whitefish. They're all caught from the waters that surround the peninsula, Lake Michigan side, and out on the bay, depending on the time of year. And we buy all the fish from local commercial fishermen right here in Door County. We get fresh fish delivered just about every other day. They caught all of your fish yesterday morning. They go lift their nets for them usually every other morning, so that means you almost always get them cooked 1 or 2 days after they're caught here at the restaurant. If you've never been to a fish boil before, these are whitefish steaks that we use, not whitefish fillets. They're basically just chunks of whitefish. I take the whole fish and I cut them all up like this into steaks. That's what I was just doing in the kitchen a minute ago. It does mean that all of the bones are still in the fish, which does kind of throw a lot of people off. However, the servers quickly remove the bones for you here at the restaurant right before they serve it to you. So believe me, it does make for a much nicer experience, not having to deal with all those little fish bones. And also too, this is not all the fish for you guys. There is 129 people at this fish boil. You can't fit them all in the kettle at once for this many people, so I have 2 more of those loaded up and ready to go in there as soon as you guys start to head inside. That way, while they're serving that one, there's a fresh one out back here cooking. So it just assures by the time the servers get around to all of your tables, you're all getting some fresh, hot cooked fish. So it's really the only way to do it. And everyone gets 2 of these, and this is part of around 2,000 pounds of whitefish they hauled out yesterday morning. So how about that? That's actually pretty normal for them. I'll start right over here. My normal stuff.
You didn't have your phone out. He told you to have your phone out. But if you want to take a picture.
Not now.
Oh, I can tell you.
We gotta go.
All caught yesterday. Last week, so. Yeah, I go through like 300 pounds every night, so they need to catch a lot. Looking good. Fresh Lakers. Hauled out yesterday. It's as fresh as you can get them. Nice shades, dude.
Good job.
Like them.
EP, baby.
Yes. So you can see. Ricky caught all these yesterday morning.
Good job, Rick.
He's so.
How big are they each?
He should be lucky to work there every day.
7 pounds.
Good eye.
I get about 3 cuts out of a small one, 5 out of a big one.
Did he congratulate you on your glass? No.
They're not that big. Okay, these go in the kettle for around 7 to 7.5 minutes, which should be right about now. First thing. Yeah, let's see where we're
What should I
at.
say?
7:07, close enough. All right, now if you've never been to a fish boil before, well, obviously it is quite a dining experience, to say the least. Door County is definitely home to the fish boils. We've been doing traditional fish boils here at the old post office restaurant since 1978 now, so 47 years we've been doing fish boils right out back here at this restaurant. I've been doing them here for the last 10 years, and we do this in every single type of weather condition, no matter what. So yes, even if it's absolutely pouring down rain out back here, we still do the fish boils, but that's always the most commonly asked question I get. I'm gonna hit this thing with some kerosene to get it dripping out again. So oh yeah. How's that for nice and warm? All right. That'll get them boiling again in just a few minutes. All right, now before you guys all get here, I fill the kettle up with around 25 gallons of water, 3 cups of salt go into the water. Salt is the only seasoning you put into a fish boil. That's pretty much all the Norwegian settlers had back in the old days. However, it does season everything quite well. The fish, the potatoes, and nuggets. You get your fire burning. It takes around 20 minutes or so to get the water to start to boil. Once the water's boiling, you start your timer at 30 minutes. Each fish boil takes a half an hour. Potatoes, they go in the kettle first for the whole half an hour. Onions go in the kettle second, anywhere from around 3 to 7 minutes after the potatoes go in, depending on the size of them. And then the fish will go in the kettle for the last 7 to 7.5 minutes or so. That's all it really takes to cook the whitefish. And on an average season, I cut up and boil around 35,000 pounds of whitefish myself. So that's what we go through just at this restaurant alone. However, we are always able to get fresh whitefish right out of our own local waters up here in Door County. So they're definitely an important natural resource to the area. Now the fish boil itself, this is an old Scandinavian tradition. It was started off by Swedish and Norwegian immigrants back in the 1800s up here in Door County. Northern Door County, where you guys are all at, is very rich in Scandinavian heritage. You do kind of see it all over up here. Well, the fish boils are a part of our old Scandinavian heritage as well. Most of the Swedes and the Norwegians who settled here back in the 1800s, they homesteaded up here in Door County. Basically got free land by the government just to move up to these remote areas so they could start establishing growth to the upper parts of the Great Lakes. Some of them came up here and fished. Most of them came up here and worked in the logging industry. Those would have been your two main jobs back in the 1800s up here in Door County. There was plenty of fish out in the waters, and the peninsula itself was heavily forested. And I'm pretty sure that the fish boil was never really meant to become a tourist attraction like it is today, as something like this would have just been done in the logging camps and the little tiny fishing villages back in the 1800s up here. So that's pretty much how it all started off. It wasn't until around the turn of the century people started to appreciate all this natural beauty Door County had to offer. They quit logging all the forests up here. They started to preserve areas for state parks, including Peninsula, which is straight across that harbor, and they started to build and open the first hotels and resorts for tourists, including the Edgewater Resort. It opened up in the year 1900. It was one of the first hotels to open up here in the village of Ephraim. So right around that time, Door County started getting its very first tourists. Unlike today, where we get over 2 million visitors up here every summer, if you did come to Door County back in the early 1900s, you would have came up here by steamship. They didn't have the roads or the highways built this far north on the peninsula until the late 1920s. So they started bringing tourists up here from Chicago and Milwaukee during the summertime by steamship. And if you were coming all the way up here from Chicago or Milwaukee on a steamship back in those early years, you probably weren't coming up for a long weekend or a day trip like people do nowadays. First of all, the tourist ship only came into Ephraim once a week back in those early years. Most of the people who did come up here on it, they were quite well off, and they would stay up here for a few weeks to a few months during the summertime. And back in those days when you stayed at a hotel or resort for so long up here, well, they cooked all your meals for you while you stayed up here, and everybody pretty much ate the same thing. Well, some of those old hotels and resorts started to do fish boils for their guests, and that's how this tradition was born here in Door County. We basically have been doing fish boils the traditional way, just like this for the tourists, ever since. You can see it does go back well over a century. It's definitely a Door County original tradition, and you can date this all the way back to the very first European settlers we had here in Door County. So it is a pretty neat thing. It's stuck around so long, and we still do it the traditional ways like this, using firewood and very soon a can of kerosene, which I have right over here. Now the kerosene thing you do at the end of the fish boil, well, this is probably something that was discovered by accident, in my opinion, yes. But the last thing you do at a fish boil, that is before you go inside to eat it, is boil the whole kettle over. Once all this stuff starts to cook in here, you start to get this layer of foam and scum and even ash from the fire that simmers to the surface of the kettle. So somebody along the way came up with the boil over, where you throw a can of kerosene into the fire. Not only does it make a huge fireball, it'll make a great picture as well, so have your cameras out and ready for it. But more importantly, what it'll do, it'll make this whole thing boil over, and yes, all that foam and gunk from the top does just go right along with it. It does actually work Quite genius. You'll see for yourselves in a moment. After we boil the kettle over, you guys go right ahead, walk back in between the two buildings, just go right to your assigned tables. The servers come around, they bring everybody a plate with a couple of whitefish steaks. You get boiled baby red potatoes. You also get a boiled onion. You do want to put melted butter all over the top of that. You get homemade breads, homemade coleslaw, and for dessert, a slice of Door County cherry pie. Enjoy. Quite delicious. Also, too, if you're new to Door County, grab one of my flyers I have over on my rack. I was born and raised up here on the peninsula, so I did print off all the key places you should try to visit while you're here in Door County. So if you're new to the area, grab one of those if you would like as well. And I also do have a tip kettle, and tips are always appreciated, so thank you so much for that. Get your cameras ready. I will chuck the kerosene in. And yes, you guys can go inside and eat. Sound good? Sounds spectacular to me. This is going to be a nice one, I can tell. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, yes.
That's Kurt, that's fire.
Well, that works.
Good job, my man.
Oh, yeah. You ready? Okay.
Go when they tell us.
Well, that's it.